guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my experience with coronavirus and this entire situation. I was in New York City, as you guys know. There are so many cases that are there in the United States, specifically in New York City. This video is going to talk about my experience and how I escaped. Literally, I had to escape New York City. What was the experience of being in an airport in a time where everyone wants to avoid that place, and how did I make it back through the immigration medical screening processes that happen at the Indian airports for that matter. So if you guys are interested in knowing my entire experience, which honestly was a little scary, then please continue watching. So let's start with the basic stuff. First, I was in New York City for the last 10 to 12 days. I just came back yesterday and today I'm shooting this video. I had gone there for a project which was with this brand called Hell Energy. We met Bruce Willis. It started on an amazing note, and then I extended for another 10 days to hang out with my friend who's studying for his MBA at NYU Stern School of Business. Now, I was there for the first week and everything was okay. The coronavirus or the COVID-19 situation had already begun in the world and people were avoiding travel to countries like Japan and Korea and Iran, Italy, because of the number of cases that had grown in those countries. But overall the sentiment was still a little okay. Like, people were still just taking their precautions, washing their hands, doing the sanitizer, and otherwise they were chill. But in the last 48 to 72 hours, things unraveled really fast and in a very scary manner. So मुझे आए हुए New York 7 दिन हो गए थे, I think 8 days हो गए थे, and the next 3 to 4 days I was planning to do shopping, and me and a couple of other friends, we were planning to go to this other city in the United States called New Orleans, which is like a 2.5-hour flight from New York City. Now, on the 4th last day of my trip, which was supposed to be my 4th last day of the trip, suddenly we started hearing so much more disturbing news about corona. In New York City, from the case count to being at a 5 to a 6 when I had just landed in New York City, it had jumped to almost 200 to 300 cases. And New York City is not that huge. It's huge, but it's not that huge. So there are so many cases in the same city and you're going out, like I am a tourist, I'm going to touristy places, I'm going to clubs, I'm going to the bars, I'm going to Karthik, my friend's college, and meeting students there. So it just increases the chances of you catching the virus, because as we guys know, it's a very infectious disease. It spreads really fast if you get in contact with someone who has it and you touch your face or your eyes, your nose or your mouth with it, or you eat something with those infected hands or with the hands of someone who you've just met or hugged, you will catch the virus and you will not even get to know for the next 14 days that you actually have the coronavirus in your system, because the symptoms start showing only after 14 days, which is why it's so much more scarier, because you could be carrying the infection with you and transmitting it to other people while you're not even showing any symptoms, while you feel like you're perfectly alright but you're actually suffering from it. And as young adults, or as the youth, we are still okay because our immunity is still strong. But if someone above the age of, let's say, 40 or 50, or someone with an autoimmune disorder, someone with a heart issue, or someone with diabetes, or any other genetic problem or cancer or any other medical issue, or someone who's above the age of 50 or 60, is at a very high risk of getting extremely serious after they get infected with this virus, which starts like a common flu but turns into pneumonia and then can lead to death, which is extremely scary. So suddenly the case count jumped and everyone was talking about it. People were just suddenly starting to avoid going out, and this is when I am actually supposed to fly to New Orleans. We actually made that plan because Karthik was going for his MBA trip to Israel, which got cancelled. He really wanted to do something, he was really upset, so we thought we'll go to New Orleans instead. It's just a 2.5 flight. It's in the US state, so it didn't really matter much at that time. Because after that 4th last day started, I could already feel that this trip is getting cancelled for sure, because suddenly the case count had jumped so much. And Donald Trump, who had been ignoring the coronavirus situation that was going on in the world for the last 3 weeks, suddenly decides to wake up on that day and he announced that he's going to ban all EU countries to travel to the United States of America, which is crazy, right? Like Europe and America are the two biggest, most developed continents in the world. So to ban flights from all the Schengen states or all the EU states coming into United States, they could not enter after 48 hours, which is what he had given as a deadline for all the people who wanted to come back. And all of a sudden, the only thought that came to my head at that time was that, dude, what if India bans something like that, because India does not have as many cases as New York does. So it was just suddenly that all of these things were happening, and then a few hours later, we got to know the news that Trump was also planning to restrict domestic travel, which meant that if we went to New Orleans, let's say if we made it safely there, after ignoring the risk of having the virus or catching the virus because of being in the airport where there are people from all over the world, there could have been a possibility that we would not have been able to come back. And for me, that possibility was really scary because I have to go home, right? And my flight is from New York City, so I cannot go to another state and not come back, because that would mean I will not go home. So we were just like really shocked that what is happening. All of a sudden the cases have increased. And then Karthik, or my friend, his MBA school started sending out notices to all the students that the classes have been suspended for the semester, and they are going to do all classes online, which again sounded really scary. All of these things were just creating so much panic in our heads, and all my friends who are studying MBA in the United States suddenly started contacting us and telling us that they are planning to go back to India. So for me, it was so scary to think that I'm a tourist and I don't even live here, and I'm planning to stay back for the next 4 days and chill, while people who are studying here, who spend lakhs and crores of rupees in getting their MBA from that country, are planning to pack up and go back home because, what if they get quarantined? By quarantine, I mean if you are suspected to have the virus, or if you have the virus, you're supposed to stay in isolation for at least 2 weeks so that you don't pass it on to other people because it's so infectious. So they could not be quarantined alone in United States where no family, no friends, nobody. So they were just deciding to go back home because even their classes were suspended, even the universities were sending them notifications that, guys, please make your decisions, speak to your Indian consulate, speak to your visa authorities to make sure that you have everything sorted, but please take a decision about whether you want to stay or whether you want to go. First things first, we decided to cancel the trip to New Orleans, which was obvious. And of course, it cost me a lot of money. Like, I spent almost $200 to $300 on booking that flight and that trip, and we had to cancel all of it, the Airbnb, everything we cancelled. And then I was like, okay, let's just assume that I am still in New York City for the next 3 days. I'll stay here, I'll stay indoors with my friend Karthik, who had no symptoms, so I was guessing he was alright. I'll take it easy, I'll get some rest, I'll do my work on my laptop, coordinate with my team back in India, and take my flight back to India on the 4th day. But the same day at night, we suddenly started hearing more news. More countries were placing travel restrictions. I also got to know that in India, anybody who was landing from a foreign country was going through a very strict medical screening, and if you don't clear that medical screening, you would be put under a mandatory quarantine, which means a mandatory isolation period in a medical facility which is far away from your home, and you would not be allowed to go to your house. And that itself freaked me out. I was like, what if I stay one more day longer and I'm just increasing my chances of catching the virus? And if I catch the virus here and I get isolated here, I will have nobody to fall back upon because I don't have a house here, I don't live in this country, I don't have friends, I don't have family. The first fear was that I'm going to get stuck in New York City with nothing to do with the coronavirus. And the second fear was that if India bans all the flights coming from US because the case count is going up exponentially, then I'm going to get stuck here and I will not have the chance or the opportunity to even fly back to my own country, which was such a scary thought. Kuch bhi ho jaye, home is home. Guys, like aise situations when things are getting so scary and you're afraid because there's a pandemic in the world going on, all you want to do is go home and be safe with your loved ones. So at that time, I just panicked and I was like, dude, I need to book my flight. Though my flight was 3 days later, and of course, it was booked by the brand that I had gone to New York with, so I did not have to pay for my flight tickets. But in that moment, the panic was so huge, and all the news that was pouring in, social media has gone crazy, people are just sharing and talking about COVID-19, coronavirus all around. It's just creating such a sentiment of panic and hysteria in people that you are going to take some drastic measures which I did, and I'm glad I did, honestly, because at that time the best idea for me was to book the next available flight and fly back to India at the earliest, because मुझे ये भी नहीं पता था कि मैं इंडिया पहुंच भी जाऊंगी तो भी मैं घर पहुंच पाऊंगी कि नहीं, क्योंकि अगर गलती से मुझे एयरपोर्ट पे न्यूयॉर्क सिटी में या फ्लाइट में I catch the virus by someone and I have a temperature, a fever or a cough and a cold, they will stop me at the Indian airport and they will not let me go. I booked my flight, the first flight that was available, which was the next day in the afternoon, so I decided to stay back with my friend for that day and night. We were just feeling so upset because, you know, everyone was cancelling their plans, people were planning of coming back. My friend who had gotten an internship with a great company in the US was scared that his internship might get cancelled, which I think they are also getting cancelled, because everything is getting cancelled because of the coronavirus, because literally it feels like apocalypse, you know. So I was just so scared, and then I booked my flight, and then next day morning, first thing I did was pack my bags, went and left. And once I got to the New York airport, they put a red stamp on my boarding pass, and I was just like, why are they doing that? I literally felt like I have the virus, maybe they know. And then I just knocked some sense into myself. I'm like, how can they know? I mean, they're just sitting at the counter. They have no thermal temperature testers or whatever. And then the lady at the counter told me that they have marked my boarding pass red because I have booked my flight in the last 24 hours. So apparently, Air India, I don't know if other airlines have this policy, but Air India has this policy at JFK, John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York City, that whoever books their flight within 24 to 48 hours of them flying has to go through an extra security protocol. So basically they have this fear that अगर आपने अपनी flight एकदम end moment पे book करी है तो कुछ हो सकता है, कुछ गड़बड़ हो सकता है, which is why they do an extra security check. So I asked her, what is the extra step? She's like, no, you just have to do an extra security, an extra security. I was like, okay, maybe it's fine, it's alright. And when I went to the security, the guard actually made me skip the queue, which was really long, and took me right in front. And I was just like, wow, that actually for a moment I felt good, that wow, nice, you know, security line skip ho gaya, ab to main bahut jaldi pahunch jaungi. But little did I know that I was in for a rude shock. I went inside and the lady asked me that we're going to do a top to down. Are you comfortable with that? And I literally, honestly, in that moment, I literally felt like I've done some crime, because everyone around me was scared. I was scared, and then on top of all of this hysteria, I'm getting to know that mera extra checking hone wala, they're gonna frisk me more than normal. I just broke down. In that moment, I started crying, and the lady at the counter realized that I was not comfortable with being frisked like properly in front of everyone. So she's like, okay, let's take her to a private room. So they took me to a private room and they did like top to bottom frisking. Like every part of my body was touched and they did like a proper thing. And honestly, it was a girl doing it, so I was okay with it, but it does feel uncomfortable, let's be real. And then after the frisking was done, they took my luggage, which normally just goes through the X-ray machine, right, if you're going through immigration. But when my luggage came through, even though there was no problem with the luggage, they took out each and every piece of clothing, accessory, makeup, whatever I had. They opened each and every piece of item and they tapped everything just to make sure that there's nothing. And I literally felt like, why am I going through all of this just because I booked my flight in the last minute? It was such a harrowing experience for me, but I do understand that it's for the betterment of the airport and for the security reasons and all that. But in that moment when you know already there's so much going on, and उसके ऊपर आपको इतना फ्रिस्क कर रहे हैं, आपका हर एक चीज खोल के, आपका बैग का पेन से लेकर आपकी लिपस्टिक से लेकर आपका च्युइंग गम, perfume, everything they're checking as if it could be a drug or a weapon. It literally feels weird. So anyway, I mean, I was just trying to be a mature and a sensible girl and not cry, not break down, because you know, I was just like, Nitba, keep it together. And it was a 16-hour flight and the flight was literally empty. And it only had students who were flying back from US to India. Obviously, all of them must have also booked it last minute. And literally, I had the next 2 seats free next to me. So all of us on the flight literally slept on the 3 seats, which normally I would have been like extremely happy about. But that day, I just felt sad because I realized that the seats next to me or next to everyone else are empty, not because we are lucky. It's because nobody wants to be at the airport or inside a 16-hour long flight, because that is breeding ground for viruses. That's the place where you can, when you're most susceptible to catching something like an infectious disease. You touch something and it could be infected. You go to the loo, it's being used by the same people over and over again. So honestly, those 16 hours were really, really tough for me. I hardly could sleep because I was so nervous about, the medical screening that was going to happen at the Indian airport. And they gave us a medical screening form in which we had to declare that we don't have any cough, we don't have any sneezing, or we don't have any high temperature. And you have to declare that, because if you don't declare it, then they will assume you have something and they will put you into quarantine. So we all filled out that form, and I genuinely did not have a cough or a cold or a fever, thank God. And I filled out the form completely. You have to give your name, address, your phone number, all the accurate details, just in case you have a temperature and they want to track you down later on, they can actually track you down. So after filling that form, I landed. Before immigration, actually, they stopped us. There was a long queue for medical screening, and there was a thermal camera which basically you pass through, and it has infrared or something, so it flashes only when you have a higher temperature than normal body temperature. And in that moment, before I was about to pass that camera, I literally could feel my body heating up because I was so nervous and so scared that I'm going to not clear it and I'm going to have a temperature. It was just giving me a fever just thinking about that possibility. So I just crossed through that, but luckily I made it without being stopped. But then immigration happened, and immigration, maybe they had a separate queue for people flying in from US, Italy, Korea, Japan, China, because these are the most affected countries. So even there I could feel like all the eyes were on me because I'd come from US. Everyone was looking at me like I had the virus. But somehow I cleared that as well, and I got home. I still haven't met my parents. Like, I haven't had physical contact with them. I haven't even been in the same room as my grandmother because I want to stay away from them as much as possible, because I could be carrying the virus while 14 days it takes to show the symptoms. So I don't know, I'm not showing any symptoms, but I want to stay away from them because those are the people who are more susceptible to it being fatal. So yeah, it's overall been really scary. I've been back and trying to get back into the groove. Everyone is going into quarantine, everyone is trying to isolate themselves to not spread it, not to be carriers, and to curtail and to flatten the curve of the disease, which is just going up as we speak, and it's really scary. So yeah guys, that was my story about how I literally escaped New York City. I really hope all my other friends who are still in US make their way back before it's too late, before the flights get banned. I just escaped right in the nick of time, and I'm so glad I did. Goes without saying, it's not something we can take casually. It's a global pandemic. It's very, very infectious. Just stay safe, stay indoors as much as you can. Please wash your hands for 20 seconds at least. Sanitize. Do not hoard things from the grocery store or from your supply store, because if everyone starts hoarding, then there will be no essentials left for people to buy. Please be considerate and count your blessings, guys. Really, this entire experience has made me count how lucky I am to have a home to come back to feel safe. Imagine the people who are homeless, who don't have basic hygiene or sanitation solutions, who don't have food to eat or water to drink. Imagine them. If they catch the virus, how difficult is it going to be for them to survive? Let's just be appreciative of all that we have and still stay safe at the same time. And yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. I hope we all come out of this real soon. Take your precautions, stay safe. I love you guys.